This is the future. We're in it.
Yeah.
Lots of Tesla stock news today. Let's start with some really good news. All new Tesla Model X estimated delivery dates in the US have changed to November, December. This comes just 1 week after they changed to October, November from September, October. Demand after the price cuts appears to be strong. I say it doesn't just appear strong. It is clearly very strong. James hopes that they can keep prices stable for a bit for the Model S and X and really expand production. Would love to see 25,000 deliveries for Q3 and Q4. Normally, because of longer wait times, I would expect Tesla to increase prices, but in this case, for the Model X, I'm not really expecting that. I just expect that they will increase production for the Model X, because if they increase prices, that means consumers in the US will lose access to the $7,500 EV tax credit, and that will make the car a lot more expensive. So I'm not expecting Tesla to increase the price really above $80,000 for the Model X. I am not necessarily expecting the Model S wait times to increase, because this car does not qualify for the $7,500 EV tax credit because it is not an SUV. It would have to be under $55,000 to qualify. Here's more good news. Estimated delivery times for new orders of the new Model 3 in the Netherlands has changed to November, December from October, November. Some bears will say, oh, that's because there's a delay in the Model 3 Highland production, but I say wrong, because we have seen ships being loaded with refresh Model 3. So we know the production is ramping up. Most likely, the increased wait time is due to high demand. Netherlands is a relatively small country, but I would not be surprised if similar things start happening with other bigger countries in Europe as well. This could be nothing, or it could be possibly really good news. Someone made this post saying that all of the vehicles look the same, basically, and then Elon replied with this picture of the Cybertruck. Now, this possibly could indicate that perhaps the Cybertruck is actually really coming very, very soon based on the latest rumors. We expect that to happen in October. Usually Elon Musk just doesn't randomly post pictures of Cybertruck, so I think this is perhaps an indication that it is indeed coming very, very soon. This is either good news or bad news. The company that produces gigapresses is preparing for VIP guests at the International Forum, and the visitors can tour 2 gigapress machines ready for shipment and several other innovative die casting machines. So this is either for Tesla or someone else. If it's for Tesla, this is good news. If it's not for Tesla, not so great. We just got latest delivery numbers from China based on the insurance data, and it is 8,500, lower than before. And I made it very clear that I did expect lower numbers because there's no more Model 3s in the inventory. And now in China, we are slightly behind the previous quarter. If Tesla starts delivering refresh Model 3s within China, the number could turn around. But the year-to-date number looks really good when you compare it to the previous year. Troy asks here, is there any chance Model 3 Highland deliveries could start before the end of this month? Roland thinks it's certainly not going to happen in Europe. I agree with that. I don't think so in China, he says as well. I would say the first or second week of October for Europe and China at the same time. Tesla needed to get a permit to start selling the refresh Model 3, which they got on September 12th, but they are still not allowed to sell that vehicle. Actually, September 19th, which is today, is technically when they could start delivering these vehicles. So by the end of tomorrow, we should find out if Tesla is going to deliver any refresh Model 3s within China or not. James says Tesla would need to sell 20,000 of these refresh Model 3s in the last 2 weeks of the quarter to catch up to Q2. Either way, it's short-term noise. I largely agree with that. As we have seen from the port activity, they have tried to compensate by increasing exports. I expect the biggest third month of exports ever this September, setting up a huge Q4 in Europe. Every quarter in Europe this year has been somewhat flat, but I think Q4 is going to be the quarter that will really break through in Europe. This is great news. Tesla's Model 3 and Model Y EVs are at the top of the least stolen vehicles list. Before, when I did not have an EV, I had my car broken into, but I never had our Tesla broken into ever. It's just too much hassle for the thieves. They can just go to another car. Turkey's communications directorate released some details about the meeting between Elon Musk and the president of Turkey, which happened yesterday, including a claim that Elon Musk said that Turkey is among the most important candidates for next Tesla factory. It would be a bit surprising if Tesla built its next factory in Turkey. I think India perhaps makes a bit more sense. Either way, we should find out by the end of the year exactly where Tesla will build its next factory. Also, keep in mind, this could just be a mega pack factory. Toyota says it believes it can close the gap with Tesla and others by combining new technology with the famous lean production methods it has used for decades to wring inefficiency, including excess costs out of manufacturing. Last week, the company showed off a prototype of the die casting technology known as gigacasting that Tesla pioneered. Keep in mind that Toyota is the company that admitted that Tesla Model Y is truly a work of art after they tore it down. Toyota said back then, "It's unbelievable. We need a new platform designed as a blank sheet," said another person from Toyota. "It's a whole different manufacturing philosophy." By the time Toyota copies the Model Y manufacturing techniques, Tesla by then will have moved on to the next thing. The Tesla Model 3 has made it onto a list of the top 10 most leased vehicles in the US, becoming the first EV to do so. Interesting that the Model Y is not on this list. I think eventually it will get here, but maybe people just look at the Model Y and they say, this vehicle, I don't want to just lease it, I want to buy it. New machinery has just been spotted that just arrived at Giga, Texas. This should be used for the Cybertruck. And of course, Cybertruck sightings continue. Joe counted 5 Cybertrucks today, and here's that last one. 3 of them were at the crash test facility and 2 in the outbound lot. I really can't wait to see a Cybertruck crash test. Oh, this is really good. All Hearst rentals in the US now allow full Tesla app access. This means you can use keyless lock, unlock via phone key, remotely precondition the cabin, track charge status, and more. I especially like just walking up to a car and it just unlocks itself. I walk away from the car, it just locks itself. If you never had a Tesla and you use the app and you rent a Tesla, I think you are more likely to buy a Tesla vehicle next time you want to buy a new car. The refresh Model 3 just arrived in Italy's showrooms. Deliveries for the refresh Tesla Model 3 are expected to start next month in Italy. Gary Black just made a pretty good list of positives and negatives for Tesla stock. We'll start with some positives. Number 1 is UAW strike being extended. Ford, Stellantis, and GM are struggling with that. The next one is the Cybertruck launching and that creating a halo effect for the core Tesla franchise. He thinks that will help sell more Model Ys and Model 3s. Next one is pent-up demand for the refresh Model 3, but also temporarily that's a negative. I did sales before, and if you do sales and you have a customer that wants to buy your product and you can't give it to them immediately, if you have to wait for a few weeks, some of the people you will just definitely lose. Let's say someone wanted to buy a Tesla vehicle and a few weeks later, one of their friends is selling a car and they just get the car from them. You just lost the sale. It happens all the time. Tesla gross margins should bottom in Q3, says Gary. He's also saying that the Model 3 price hike is a positive. I assume he's talking about the refresh Model 3 costing more money to consumers than the old one. I don't think he's talking about another price hike for the Model 3. And then he thinks that there will be no Model Y price cuts. He thinks that Q4 volume could exceed 500,000 deliveries. I think that's certainly possible. And look at this. Gary Black just surprised me here. He says there will be at least one FSD licensing deal likely. He's using some pretty strong language here. He started earlier with very uncertain language. He wasn't really certain about it, but now he is certain. The certainty, the confidence level here is very high. Energy blowing away estimates. Eventually it's going to happen. Just like that report from Morgan Stanley about Dojo, which surprised Many people made Tesla stock go up. I think eventually the same will happen with Tesla Energy as well as Tesla FSD. Gary is convinced that Tesla will solve full self-driving, at least that it will be level 4, meaning it should be basically safer than human driving in 2024. And some minuses here. Q3 deliveries still need to come down. Speaking of estimates specifically, he's only expecting 445,000 deliveries versus Wall Street, which is at 462,000. I think that's fair. Q3 auto gross margins may still be too high. Gary's estimate is at 17.6%. Global EV adoption seems to be stalling with interest rates rising. And lastly, 2023 and 2024, Tesla estimates are still declining. I think Gary's talking about earnings per share, minus 1% in the last 30 days. Once that reverses, that will also, I think, reverse a lot of the price targets from Wall Street. Instead of some price targets going down or staying neutral, they will start going up. And this has to be one of my favorite things that Gary Black ever said. Here's someone saying that Gary Black is one of the few sane Tesla bears, and Gary responds with, "I'm a Tesla stock bull, ding dong." I feel like Gary is becoming a little bit more like Steve and Mark Ryan. I like it. This is interesting. Study reveals that living in a colder climate may be better for your Tesla battery health. Yeah, you can clearly see that the states that have hotter weather overall will have slightly worse performance in the long term, but it's not that huge to a point where you really need to worry about it, but clearly there's a difference. The study found that the threshold for accelerated battery degradation is around 30 Celsius or 86 Fahrenheit. Model Y, in some cases though, had a range score of 95 or above even when it was operated in a hot climate. Recurrent says, this is because there are steps you can take to mitigate these effects, and these are likely what many of these owners did. The company suggests parking in a garage or shaded area during hot and sunny days, and also leaving the battery at around 50% when parked in the heat, both of which should reduce side reactions and improve stability. Additionally, LFP battery packs are known for resilience in high temperatures, so this might be a better choice if you live in a hot climate. In contrast, cold weather, while causing temporary performance issues in EVs, does not inflict permanent damage. This is the share of the US housing units that have vehicles parked within 20 feet of an outlet, and there are quite a few states that have pretty high percentages here. And overall, the United States is at 67% on average, and New York, for example, is fairly low, 57%, but still more than 50%. Really good data here. There's, of course, a lot of work that needs to be done to provide charging to everyone in that 33%. Good news for Tesla stock investors, bad news for NIO stock investors. Interesting that NIO is raising another $1 billion in capital just 3 months after a $750 million raise from the Saudis, both when the stock price was relatively low. I made a video about NIO last year in November. Here's what I said. Tesla cutting prices was not necessarily a bad thing because everyone else is just going to suffer much more. However much Tesla suffers, everyone else is going to be suffering squared, basically. I recorded the video on November 16th. NIO stock was at $10.50, and Tesla stock that day was at $195. NIO is trading now below $10 per share, and currently Tesla is now well over $200. Now, just to be very clear, Tesla stock could go down a lot, but if it does, I will be so much happier to buy a lot more Tesla stock. And I'm definitely not touching NIO stock. No way. Electric is reporting that Korea's top automaker Hyundai is looking to tap into Saudi Arabia's post-oil era with a dedicated EV assembly plant in the region. So maybe partially this was what all of the confusion was, with Wall Street Journal saying that Tesla is talking to Saudi Arabia to build an EV manufacturing plant or a manufacturing facility in Saudi Arabia. Maybe someone confused Hyundai with Tesla. That sounds a bit unlikely, especially because this deal was already sort of agreed on earlier this year, back in January actually. Every week we get a story that sounds similar to this. For example, here Volkswagen is about to stop EV production at this one particular plant where ID3 models are built. Now, why would they stop making this EV? Well, there's speculation here that the move is likely part of a broader strategy to cut costs and better position the company to compete in the future. So to transition to EVs, we are going to make less EVs. I mean, Volkswagen is probably losing a lot of money just making EVs. So yeah, cutting costs would mean you stop making EVs, right? Volkswagen is urgently looking to increase profitability, and it has excess plant capacity which it wants to reduce, meaning there's not enough demand for Volkswagen vehicles. X/Twitter now has 550 million active monthly users, up from 8.5 million from 7 weeks ago. That's good news because Twitter/X is more likely to make profits sooner. This is insane! This guy says I was on FSD and my Tesla Model Y wouldn't go on green. Pressed the accelerator and it would barely move. Finally, he just freaked out and slammed the brakes. The vehicle saved us from a serious crash. If Tesla does advertising, this is the kind of video footage that Tesla should use. In fact, I know of someone who watched this clip, who saw this, and that's why they wanted to buy a Tesla vehicle. News stories like this one are all over the place. Elon Musk supposedly is going to put X/Twitter behind a paywall, but Elon has been saying this for about a year now. He hasn't been saying that X will be paywall just to have an account or view posts, but unverified accounts will have low reach and limited access to features. For example, you won't be able to edit your post once you post it, but you would still be able to view everyone else's posts. As gas prices skyrocketed, Google search interest for electric vehicles smashed a record. Now, this story is from 2022, March specifically, but Brent crude oil just went over $95 per barrel for the first time since November. That certainly helps EV sales. Remember when many people panic sold Tesla stock right there? Well, I think a moment of silence is appropriate here. Elon Musk just showed the Cybertruck to the Prime Minister of Israel, and he also gave him a quick tour of the factory. Take a look.
I said no, and one said maybe. I'm like, I'll take that as a yes. It's getting more efficient. I don't know. You could say like maybe 5 to 8% a year. Nickel. So the lithium is maybe 2 or 3% of the content.
The DeLorean, that's it. DeLorean was, I think it was the first, no? I don't know. Maybe
The car in Back to the Future was a DeLorean.
oh, it's probably wrong. You got it?
Red, ladder wiring. And you know, the cooling. Yeah, and you're difficult to, these connectors are sometimes difficult to connect. And
I don't know if these guys have the job.
yeah. Hey guys.
This is the future. We're in it.
Yeah.
And Elon has been amazingly generous with his time and his vision, but not only to us, I think for humanity. Really amazing. Nothing short of it.
Neuralink has announced that their first in-human clinical trial is now open for recruitment. Emphasis on the first in-human clinical trial. First in-human clinical trial. This is a medical device trial for the fully implantable wireless brain-computer interface. This will be incredibly interesting to watch. I am aiming to produce about 1 video per day exclusively for Patreon this month. If you are my Patreon supporter, make sure to watch this video today. I posted another video about the biggest mistake that I see Tesla stock investors make. And later today, I'm publishing another exclusive video that's going to be a juicy one. By joining my Patreon, you will get access to how much I think it is fair to pay per Tesla share each year between 2023 2033 and 2033. If you sign up for the investor tier of support, you will also get my valuation model of Tesla stock with a 45-minute video walkthrough. A big thanks goes to all of my Patreon supporters, and I will see you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.